funny drinking from this tiny little cup. And the only reason why I'm actually drinking from this Buzz Lightyear and what Toy Story is because it was the only thing left at the store. We normally have the white ones instead. I have Toy Story, so it's even more and definitely not aesthetically pleasing, if I can say that right. But I'm sorry, my voice is just you can hear it probably getting more and more gravelly as I go on. But we're in part 3 of chapter 13 of Matthew. So Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds, among the wheat and went away. Of course, Jesus is building on this imagery that we've already talked about. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may root up the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." So Jesus and Satan both here are pictured. There's two different farmers. One is Jesus and one is Satan. And the weed that's referenced here actually it looked like wheat in the early stages of its growth. And so it was not easily distinguished until it began to mature. And then when it began to mature, then you could distinguish the difference between the weed and the wheat. But this is why he was saying, one, I don't want you to pull it up because you may pull up good, and I don't want the good to be thrown out with bad. So wait. Also, I did not know this until I was doing this research, but the weed during this time that he's kind of giving the picture of was actually a poisonous seed. So it was definitely not something that you wanted to grow. But if you're wanting to make sure that you can separate the wheat, then and let it just continue to grow, and you can separate the wheat and be able to still save the wheat, you had to let the weeds grow. It would be more destructive to pull it up. It would do more. It would pull up too much and destroy everything. So then Jesus explains it. Now we jump to verse 36. Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." Again, so they're asking for that understanding. They're craving understanding. They're asking, seeking, "Lord, what are you saying?" And he grants them the request. He answered, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil." And we see this in Revelation. "They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let them hear." Now, a lot of this we see in Daniel and Revelation, and it spells out the exact same thing, that there is that harvest, and that there will be the ones that are harvested for heaven, and then those that are going to be cast into the fire, where there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Also, to note here in verse 38 says the field is the world. So this is something that's different for their understanding. What they've always known is that their Messiah was for Israel. This is a new understanding that Jesus is saying, "I have come for the whole world." So this kind of rocks their world a little bit, their world, literally and figuratively. So here Jesus explains it. I don't dive a whole lot into that just because it's pretty self-explanatory between what he says. But it's also for us to take it and look at it as application of, well, first of all, let's look at it through the lens of what we've talked about in the beginning. When we look through scripture, we always look at it first through understanding. We want to know who God is. We want to know his heart. And Lord, show us your heart. Well, God's heart is mercy, because you look in this parable, and Jesus is saying, no, don't don't pull up the weeds, because if you pull up the weeds, you might pull up the wheat. And he didn't want to lose a single wheat stalk. That's how important that every single one is. So his heart is mercy and compassion and love, that he was willing to let the weeds go ahead and grow alongside the wheat to save every single kernel of wheat that he possibly can. That's his heart. And then what happens? Yes, there's a judgment, but he wants there to be a harvest that's far greater than if the weeds again had been pulled up too soon. And he's wanting this good seed to be sown into all of the world. Again, this goes back to his heart of compassion, not just for one people group, but for all the world. And so here we just see that beautiful picture that God is showing his heart to us, saying, I love you so much that I'm not going to just throw you away with the weeds. I want to rescue every single one that will allow me to rescue you. But the weeds will be burned up and thrown out. And those are the ones that have been planted by the enemy, that have chosen to become a seed for the enemy. So there we go with that part, and we will pick up tomorrow, and hopefully I can get my voice a little bit stronger before I jump into the next section.